He was last seen January 10th, 2014 in Rochester, and as of 2017, law enforcement officers do believe that he was unalived, but unfortunately have not been able to find his body or figure out exactly what happened to Stephen Billman back in 2014. They do have some ideas and they think they know who has done it, but let's get into the details of this case and see if anyone else knows anything that can help Stephen's family. At the time of Stephen's disappearance, he was 26 years old, which would place him about 38 now. He stood about 5'8" to 140 to 150 pounds. Stephen was also involved with the illegal cannabis industry at the time between California and Washington. Law enforcement officials do believe that this has some ties and plays into Stephen's disappearance and possible unaliving. Law enforcement officials state the following. At the time of his disappearance, Stephen was living with the person of interest that the law enforcement authorities believe. He was maintaining a grow operation for this person. In 2016, approximately 2 years after his disappearance, law enforcement officials decided to run the registration of the vehicle that Stephen had at the time of his disappearance. Registration came back as to someone who was living in the Washington state area at the time. After doing some digging and kind of running through all these different owners that had switched hands, so this truck apparently had been sold and registered and re-registered and re-registered to multiple parties throughout the years. Once law enforcement officials started kind of untangling the strings, they found out that the truck and everyone who had ownership or registration in it at various points in time since Stephen's disappearance all had connections to the person of interest that Stephen was living with at the point in time. Law enforcement officials were able to then take control of the truck and did some testing. Inside the truck, they found large amounts of bloodstains between the truck of the bed, inside the truck, including behind the seats, on the headliner, and all sorts of places. The blood came from several different sources, and they're still trying to weed out exactly all the DNA profiles for this. When law enforcement officials came to the person of interest, they decided to not cooperate with the police and decided to not have any interviews or anything with them. When law enforcement officials were talking to the person who last had registration of the truck, they stated that the story that they were told was that the original owner of the truck was whacked and that the truck was just disposed in an area in Yelm, Washington. The case's complicated nature, law enforcement officials have not been able to arrest anyone in connection to Stephen's disappearance. There is still a lot going on, and this is still an active and open investigation. If you have any information that could help law enforcement officials or even his family piece together what happened to Stephen, you can contact the Thurston County Police or Sheriff's Office at 360-786-5599. Again, police do feel like they have all the as much information as they can, but unfortunately, lots of red tape leads them for not being able to close this case. You might have some information that can help them.